You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
Alrighty, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and so far flying solo dolo for y'all, but we're going to go through and do everything we can to help you guys get ready for Week 10 of NFL Fantasy Football here. Should be a very interesting week, a very interesting slate of games. I'm really hoping that Week 10 because obviously Thursday nights did not get the memo that Week 9 was officially over with some of the upsets, things like that. So I am fully hoping that we do not see kind of some of that continuation as much as that some of that fun and some of that as we saw come through to play. But really looking forward to hopefully getting, maybe back to chalk isn't necessarily the best way to phrase that, but maybe a little bit more so to how we can expect things to roll out and how we can expect things to play out here for fantasy. So hoping for some good things there as well. So we've got we're going to do what we always do here for you guys. We're going to have the questions coming in, things like that, and be able to rock and roll that way. So if you guys have questions, you guys have concerns, you have comments, anything like that, throw them out here in the chat. We will get that going for you and answer any questions that you may have there. So we're looking to have ourselves a really good time here and looking to get you guys the advice that you need for fantasy. Looks like we do have a couple of questions coming in here. So let's go ahead and start answering some of these. So Juzel on YouTube, and hopefully I pronounced that correctly for you, on YouTube is saying, morning, Derek, a half-point PPR, Goddard or Knox, Swift, Keenan, Deontay start 2. So I'm assuming that you've got a two-part question here where you're talking Goddard or Knox for your tight end position, and then you've got Swift, Keenan, Deontay as far as the start 2 pick between those three. So that's how I'm kind of reading that one, and that's how I'm going to answer this one. So looking at it, Knox is coming off of an injury there. And anytime that I've got a player coming off of injury, I like kind of taking a little bit of time, usually about a game, to kind of see what that looks like, see how they're rolling, see how that comes to play, and before I'm going to really start them. And so I would be looking to play Dallas Goedert in that situation over Knox on this one. A lot of that has to do with the fact that I want to wait and see with what that injury looks like there. Buffalo's offense too hasn't necessarily been moving the ball overly great when it comes to it. So again, I'm looking for Goddard in this one to have a better week than Knox and really see what Knox is going to look like in this game and see how we can progress on that going forward. As far as the start 2 on Swift, Keenan, and Deontay, I do like Keenan in this one. I do. And that Swift and Deontay is kind of a tough one there. You've got the fact that those two are really kind of, oh man, let's see here. So Cleveland, I see that, man. I'm probably going to go with Swift over Deontay in that case, just because of the fact that I like typically starting running backs over wide receivers. I think they give you a little bit safer floor when it's all said and done. I don't know that I necessarily see a huge game out of Swift today. I do still have him kind of in that fringe RB1 territory for the week when I was doing my rankings there. As far as Deontay goes, let me pull him up here real quick, and I'll tell you, Deontay, I've got him in wide receiver 2 territory this week. So that's a firm start for Swift on that one. And then I had Keenan Allen slightly above Deontay Johnson, and they were close on that one. So it was like a 13 to 15 is how I had those rankings there. But great question. We got some more coming in here. Let's go ahead and keep rocking and rolling over here. So let's take a look here. We've got AC on Facebook is saying, how are we feeling about Wilson and Rodgers coming back? I think that game this afternoon just got a whole lot more interesting with those two coming back in it. We covered this a little bit on the on the Friday night show. And I don't know that that game was going to be near as interesting if those two didn't start, between a matchup between Geno Smith and Jordan Love. I didn't see that one being a very high scoring affair, very fantasy relevant type of game. And I was going to be fading just about everybody I could in that matchup because of the fact that it was going to be I think a very low scoring type of game there. So I'm ecstatic about the fact that both of those guys are coming back. If I have another quarterback I can start over Wilson, I'm probably going to do it again because of the fact that he's coming off of injury. I want to see how that looks. But I think Wilson is bound and determined to try and make some things happen. And I think that he has the ability to do so and will do so. So I see that being a very high scoring game, and both of those quarterbacks having pretty good fantasy weeks here. Let's go ahead and take a look at Sig on YouTube. Start 2, DJ Moore, Hunter Renfrow, Tony Pollard. Man, that is a tougher one there. While I do think that you'll see some ground and pound with that Dallas and Atlanta game, I think the fact that you're going to those two typically play each other a little bit tough. And when I say tough, I mean, they get into it and kind of back and forth shootouts there, things like that. And I'm hoping that Atlanta has the offensive weapons to make some things happen there and keep that score tight, because when these two teams get together, there's typically some fireworks down there between Atlanta and Dallas. But that being the case, I think that you'll see Zeke get more of a full workload here. So I'm looking to play both of those wide receivers. DJ Moore, I'm not going to lie, does concern me tremendously in that one, just from the standpoint that, he's got PJ Walker throwing the ball this week. You may see some packages with Cam in there. Sam Darnold, was at least targeting DJ Moore a ton in each one of those games there. I see that similar workload kind of going there, but the fact that you've got CMC back, you may see that offensive plan this week to lean more heavily on CMC than with that passing game there. But the fact that DJ Moore has been seen, that 8, 9, 10 targets a week type of thing, you kind of have to start him. And so I would start DJ Moore and Hunter Renfrow between those. But that's a great question. Thanks for chiming in there. We've also got Denoogle on YouTube there. Is it worth it to continue starting Mahomes? Yeah, I think you kind of have to, right? Like, the question becomes on that is, a lot of that is going to be a lot of that's going to come down to how your roster is constructed and what kind of format that you're playing in. If you're playing in a single QB league, you almost have to, because of the draft capital that you spent on him. And if you don't want to move on from the Patrick Mahomes experience, I fully understand this season, because it's not what you drafted him to be when you had to spend depending upon, again, the league, whether you had to spend a first, second, or third round capital in order to get him on your roster. It's been a little tough, and I can definitely understand that one. But so if you're looking to move on from him, you're going to have to find a trade partner and go at that and see what you can try and get for some fantasy value back there and help try to bring your team home there. But if you can plan it right, you can find the guys on the waiver wire and stream quarterbacks, things like that. It gets far more difficult to do that ever what Patrick Mahomes has been giving you, because I get that he hasn't been super fantastic for your fantasy, and certainly not what you drafted. He also hasn't necessarily been as big of a liability out there that for your fantasy anyway, as far as what he could be. Looking at this thing here, just kind of running down that, he's still been serviceable for you for fantasy. While it hasn't been necessarily great, he's had a lot of games where he's putting those things up for it. So very cool. Sig on YouTube is saying, thanks. One more, tempted to start Russ coming back, but I have Hurts and Wentz on the bench. Thoughts? Like I was saying earlier on that one, if I can weather the storm this week, I would like to see what Russ is going to do. I do think that game is going to be a little bit of fireworks, and I do think that game is going to be a very fantasy relevant game because of how that'll come to play there. But the fact that Hurts and Wentz have both been on fire lately, the The one thing that worries me about Wentz is the fact that they are playing Jacksonville this week, and there's a good chance that how Vegas sees this one playing out is the Colts are favored by about 10 points in this one. So 2-possession type of game. So the one thing that would scare me about Wentz is the fact that if you're putting him in your lineup and you're getting him ready to rock and roll and you're going that route, there's a good chance that in the partway through the third quarter and in the fourth quarter, that it is the Nyheim Hines, Marlon Mack, Jonathan Taylor show, and they just run the ball on just about every one of those possessions. So it could be a little bit tough there. So if you're starting Wentz, you're really starting Wentz with the thought of that they're going to get that big lead through his arm and jumping up early on that thing. And I don't know that to be the case because of the fact that you've got a guy named Jonathan Taylor and one of the best offensive lines in football there as well. Jonathan Taylor, I'm just pulling that up there. I've got him as the number 1 overall running back this week for fantasy. So I see that being much more of a ground and pound type of game. Hurts is an interesting one there, right? Like Hurts was fantasy gold starting off. We've seen a little bit of a fall off here over the last couple of weeks there. Denver does play the mobile quarterbacks a little bit tougher there, but Hurts is still going to probably get you about 40 to 50 rushing yards and probably about 200 to 250 passing yards and probably squeezing a couple of touchdowns there. So it depends, right? Like, so say if you're projected to win and you're projected to you're projected to be the favorite on this one, I'm probably going with Hurts because of the fact that he's going to give you some of the rushing floor there, things like that. If I need some upside, some swing on that one, I'm projected to lose. I need a little bit of a higher pull there. I'm going to go with Russ in this one. In fact, in one of my leagues, I'm forced to play Russ there just because of how my roster is constructed and what I'm looking at there. And I need the higher upswing in that matchup there. So it will be a little bit matchup dependent there. So that's how I'll answer that one is, it depends on who you're playing, how it's looking through. If you need the floor, go with Hurts, go with Wentz. If you need the upside swing, then go with Russ. But thanks for the question. Great one coming in there. Also saw one coming in on YouTube here. And let me pull that one back up here. So question on YouTube. I have the following players out and on my bench: Chubb, Ridley, Kyler, Sanders, and Gronk. If needing to drop one, who is the best option? So again, that's going to depend very heavily on how your roster is constructed there. I would tell you that all of those guys in my book are a hold if you can weather the storm on that, because when those guys come back, they will be very fantasy relevant there. If you're needing to make a move there as well, I would probably look at trying to trade one of those guys before I look to try to move on from them. So, or drop them, meaning that, right? So if you can maybe get a package deal going together with any of those guys and try and get a fantasy option to bring you back to, bring you back into the fold a little bit there, it's going to be very dependent there. It's also going to be dependent upon what your playoff run is looking like. So if you're a team that is pretty well locked because it sounds like you have a pretty decent roster there. And if you manage to lock in and you're sitting in a driver's seat as far as a playoff type of run goes, and you can weather the storm a couple more weeks for these guys to get back and get healthy, I would probably do that. But if you need to manufacture some wins, then hit the trade, see what options you can try and pull out of a trade there, things like that. If you need to rock and roll a little bit differently to the point where you got to manufacture when you got to drop somebody, I'm probably going to drop Gronk in that case, just from the standpoint that tight ends are a little bit of an easier position to find and stream than trying to find a high-end quarterback like Kyler Murray. What Nick Chubb has a very favorable matchup heading down the stretch here, and Calvin Ridley does very good things when he's in there and he's active, and Miles Sanders will get the workload when he comes back there as well. But thanks for the question over there on Twitter. Another one coming in on YouTube here: Justin Jefferson, Mike White, Michael Pittman, or Tyler Lockett there. that really kind of depends. If you're talking Mike White, is this for super flex? Is this for a this could go a couple of different routes there. If it's super flex, I'm probably going to play the quarterback there, because again, the ceiling is typically better there. The floor is typically also better there. So it really depends, right? Looking at the Michael Pittman route, there's some potential there that if you go with Michael Pittman, that you're really looking for him to do his damage early in that game. And it could be a bit of a difficult ride there going that way, because of the fact that if he is truly if that game plays out how I see that one playing out, you're going to have the Colts up by double digits. You're going to have the Colts winning that game by double digits. And so it's the fact that you're going to have to rely on Michael Pittman putting up those numbers in the first half is really how I see that one coming to play. Justin Jefferson is an interesting one there, because I think that he will have some very good fantasy relevancy there. And he's probably the guy that I would go with. Tyler Lockett, again, Alex on our show always says that you're only as good as your quarterback, as the guy throwing you a ball, meaning the quarterback. Russ coming off that finger injury. I want to see what that looks like before I'm going to kind of bet my week on that one there, unless I'm forced to. And it doesn't sound like you're forced to. So if it's super flex, I'm playing Mike White. If it's a regular flex out of those, I'm going with Justin Jefferson in that one. But great question. Great discussion. Guys, again, if you have any questions, concerns, comments, anything like that, let's throw them out there. Let's talk about them. Let's help you guys get ready, set here as we get ready to head into week 10 for the fantasy football here. So, again, some very interesting kind of matchups here, things like that are coming to play. Again, hopefully that week 10 got the memo that week 9 is over and these upsets kind of subside here a little bit. We get back to a little bit more, a little bit different outcome for both fantasy and for game outcomes here. But there's a couple of very interesting type of matchups here, right? Like I already touched on the Cowboys, already touched on the Falcons here a little bit. And those two teams, right? Like this is one of those that, there's a lot of focus that I'm putting on this game from a, how the rest of the season is going to go, right? Like Dallas at home got kind of hit in the mouth by Denver last week. And so I'm looking to see how they bounce back, what that looks like going forward, how they are able to bring that to play and really see what that looks like there. So there's some things that could happen here, right? Like you can see a couple of different scenarios play out, or at least I can, when looking at this game. You could see it being the case where, Dallas got exposed a little bit as far as how to play them, how to, come up with a defensive scheme for them, things like that, because you saw Denver really take the sails out of, probably one of the most highest, probably one of the highest powered offenses in the league. And we didn't see them necessarily do very well against that Denver front yesterday, which a lot of folks certainly didn't call, right? Like I'm a Denver fan and I didn't see that one playing out anywhere near that, even in my wildest dreams there. So there's some things that can be said there. I'm very interested to see how Dallas responds to that. Atlanta, these two teams, like I said, they tend to have some fireworks when these two teams come together. So I'm interested to see what that looks like. I'm interested to see how Dallas plays defense on this one as well, because of the fact that without Calvin Ridley there, it will take away from the upside of Kyle Pitts in this one, right? Like a lot of times you would think that a wide receiver that's going to demand targets, things like that would potentially take away from another receiving option on that one. But what Calvin Ridley there being there also does is allows for them to not necessarily bracket coverage Kyle Pitts. And you're going to see Kyle Pitts typically get more open looks, better options rolling through it that way. And that's not going to be the case today with him out. So I don't know that I'm necessarily looking to try and start, Zacharias Olamide. I'm not looking to necessarily start Russell Gage or Tajay Sharp. I mean, those are all options if you need somebody off the waiver wire, you need a flex type of play, things like that. There are options there, but are not great options in my mind. We got another question coming in here. Rams defense or Cardinals defense on this one? Man, that is a good question. You've got the Cardinals, and it's an interesting deal there because the Cardinals have been very, very, very good for as far as defense goes. Carolina's been a little bit anemic on offense lately there, but there's a chance that you get a vintage Christian McCaffrey game in this one, and you see him bust things loose, and it opens up the playbook, and you see them be able to keep this thing a little bit tighter. The fact that Kyler is so while Kyler and DeAndre Hopkins have not been ruled out of this game, they also aren't necessarily trending in the right direction either. So the fact that you may see the Cardinals offense also be a little bit less than this week opens that up for that game to be played closer, and that come to play there, right? The Niners offense has been struggling recently, right? The Niners have not been playing very well. They're going up against the Rams. So the Rams, again, this could be a one where the Rams put this away, but it's a divisional game. Typically these divisional games, you typically see a little bit tighter play there. And especially two teams that, in the past have prided themselves on some of their defense, particularly. I would probably lean towards the Rams in this one, but I could certainly see an argument being made for the Cardinals defense to be played in this one as well. So I don't have a problem with either one, but if I'm given the choice on my own roster, I'm probably going to go the Rams defense on this one over the Cardinals defense. Great question. Thanks for putting that one in the chat. Guys, again, if you have any questions, concerns, comments, anything like that, throw them in the chat. Let's go ahead and talk out your fantasy 10 conundrums and, where you guys are seeing, where you guys are having some decisions needing to be made on your fantasy football rosters here. Absolutely appreciate everybody tuning in and, checking us out and being able to talk with you guys on your fantasy rosters and your fantasy options here. Very much appreciate everybody chiming in here. So, let's go ahead and so, kind of touched on the Falcons, the Cowboys matchup there as well. Another interesting matchup is Cleveland and New England on this one. So Cleveland, New England, and actually, you know what? I just saw that question come in on Twitter. So we'll go ahead and head that way. So question coming in, Higbee or Ricky Seals-Jones PPR this week? Thank you. It's one of those that I'm going to take the team that I think is going to be trailing a little bit more so in this game and is going to have to try and play some catch up, play some come behind. And that will absolutely be the Washington football team when that one's all said and done, right? Washington football team going up against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has done a very good job all season long, for the most part, shutting down the run, which means that in order to try and keep games close, in order to keep in those games with them, you're typically going to have to throw the ball. Curtis Samuel doesn't look like he's going to be back in this one. We already saw the news that Logan Thomas is not going to be active in this one either. So your Washington football team passing options fall to Terry McLaurin, Ricky Seals-Jones, and then the running back that they have back there on the play, whether that's J.D. McKissic or Antonio Gibson. So I like the fact that you're going to see Ricky Seals-Jones get a lot of perceived work is how I see this one coming to play. Probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 6, 7, 8 targets, kind of in that range there. And I'm taking the opportunity, right? Tyler Higbee, it's going to be interesting, right? The Rams offense, we're going to see some changes this week. We saw Robert Woods go down with the ACL with that news breaking yesterday. Odell Beckham Jr. signed there on Friday. So there's going to be some dynamic changes to the Rams offense there, just from the standpoint you lost your number 2 wide receiver, you signed a guy in. Now, what does that role look like for Odell Beckham Jr. going forward? And does that necessarily cut into some of the Tyler Higbee work there? The 49ers, they've played some of those tight ends a little bit tougher this year as well. So I like the workload that I see for Ricky Seals-Jones better than the workload I like for Tyler Higbee. And that's the way that I am going to rock and roll that one. So that would be how I see that one playing out there. and had it ranked that way as well. So great question, though. Thanks for throwing that one in there. Again, guys, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything that you're needing help for your fantasy options out there, make sure you throw them out here in the comments. Let's go ahead and talk through those things. But one of the things I was talking about before that last question came in was Cleveland and New England. Those two are playing each other this week. It's one in which I see this being a defensive struggle here. Nick Chubb is out. Dearness Johnson getting his second start. And Dearness Johnson looked really good the last time we saw him get the full workload, things like that. He's a name I wanted to bring up because in a lot of DFS type of plays, he looks to be a cheaper option there as far as a running back goes there. So I'd probably be looking to start him in some of those formats there. But overall, I'm not looking to really go with many fantasy options in this game because I see this being a much lower scoring defensive struggle type of game. And I've got the one, the only, the Detroit Beastie is here. So Chris kind of, we've been just running through answering folks' questions all morning, some of their start sits, some of that one. We've got a couple more in the queue that we're getting ready to head over to. And then I want to also hit it up and let's talk about some of the DFS type of plays and some bottom of the barrel type of deals there as well. I mentioned Dearness Johnson a little bit there on that matchup. Just wanted to get your thoughts real quick there before we head on over into some more questions.
Sure, yeah, Dearness Johnson, a very good play, but again, everybody else on earth is going to have him. Last I looked, the updated ownership percentage numbers, they have him all in the red, which isn't necessarily bad. I believe on FanDuel, he's like 23% owned, and on DraftKings, he's around 25 to 24% owned, and that's fine. Personally speaking, Derek, I have Dearness Johnson. I wouldn't be shocked to see him get 20 total carries in this one. So 18, to be honest with you, is kind of his floor, but I wouldn't be shocked to see 21 or 22 total carries. So you lock him in and you go from there. What's the worst that could happen with that many carries? Volume is always king.
Yep. I like it. I like it a lot. Let's go ahead and head on over here to YouTube. We've got Monir on YouTube asking Javonte Williams or Van Jefferson or McKissick. If you're talking for a flex type of play, I will almost always favor a running back over a wide receiver for flex options because of the floor, things like that. So for me, it's going to be Javonte Williams, J.D. McKissick, and Van Jefferson in that order. What are your thoughts here, Chris?
Yeah, seasonal formats, it's Javonte. And DFS formats, I love McKissick this afternoon, given the matchup against Tampa Bay, playing from behind, garbage time. He is the king of that as a running back, mostly on DraftKings because it's a PPR. So that's how I have it.
I like it. Another one coming in from Monir on YouTube. Higbee or Freiermuth? I like Freiermuth here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I saw that as soon as I joined and you brought me in. I saw that. Great question, Monir. And to me personally, it's Freiermuth, given his price tag in DFS formats and then even in seasonal circles. People freak out that Ben Roethlisberger isn't the starting quarterback. Does that hurt Deontay Johnson? Does that hurt Pat Freiermuth? No, absolutely not. I think Mason Rudolph being the quarterback absolutely kind of bumps up Pat Freiermuth, given second string quarterback, a rookie tight end. I'm sure they did a lot of work together in the spring, summer, and in OTAs and preseason. So again, give me Freiermuth. I also think in a way, LA, they're kind of, Robert Woods is gone, so it's going to be Van Jefferson, Odell Beckham, Cooper Kupp, Darrell Henderson. I think Higbee is now an afterthought with the addition of Odell Beckham.
Yeah, I would tend to agree on that one as well. And in my own rankings there, I've got Pat Freiermuth kind of as a fringe tight end, one for season long on the weekly side of rankings and I've got Tyler Higbee right about tight end 15 when it's all said and done. So I've got Freiermuth about 3 spots ahead of Higbee on this one, and very much to the point that you were just talking about there as well. We don't know what this Rams offense is going to look like. There will be dynamic shifts that take place in LA with the fact that you lose your number 2 wide receiver. You sign another wide receiver with the name power that Odell Beckham has to it. And what does that offense look like, and what's the packages look like going forward on that one? Pat Freiermuth is the tight end is one of the, Alex of the Good Old Boys always makes the point that the tight end is one of the best safety blankets of for a quarterback there. And so when you have a quarterback that's coming in and again, it's been a while since we've seen Mason Rudolph get game reps and play meaningful snaps here in the regular season. And so there's a point in time where getting back into the flow of the game there, you will see him probably check that ball down more so to Najee Harris to Pat Freiermuth more so than I think you would if Big Ben was in there. So I like that. Absolutely, I'm in on that one. So we also have another question coming in on Twitter. New Orleans defense or Green Bay in the snow? So a defense special teams question here. What are your thoughts on New Orleans defense or Green Bay's defense?
Well, when I look at these from, my projected, game scripts and what I have for over-unders and all of that, New Orleans at Tennessee, I have New Orleans putting up about 24 points in comparison to Tennessee's 23 points. And when you look at Green Bay, this is going to be this is what being a football fan is all about, especially if you're in Green Bay at Lambeau. It's right around Thanksgiving time. It's probably 10 degrees. It's snowing. Green Bay and the Packers just absolutely relish these kind of moments. And I would imagine Seattle with Russ Wilson back, they're going to not look so hot. They're not going to be, on fire, but they're not going to be awful. So I would prefer Green Bay's DST in this one. I have Green Bay winning 24-17 somewhere. So just strictly from a points for and a points against kind of thing, I would go Green Bay's defense in this one against the Seattle Seahawks.
Gotcha. I probably lean just a little bit the other direction there. Just from the standpoint that, I see that Green Bay and Seattle game getting into a little bit more of a shootout type of feel to it, even in the snow, even in the colder weather there. Russell Wilson's no stranger to cold weather, right? He played at Wisconsin in college, so he's no stranger there, right? Obviously, Aaron Rodgers no stranger to the cold there, and those two teams, I think, will end up getting into a little bit of a shootout type of matchup there, even with the fact that Green Bay's defense has been playing pretty good. I would lean more towards the New Orleans Saints on this one, especially with Julio hitting the IR. Tannehill was dealing with an illness the other day. So there's some chances that Tennessee offense looks a little bit more sluggish. New Orleans has been very, very good against the run, which, couple weeks ago, Derrick Henry, that wouldn't have mattered in my mind at all. But the fact that Adrian Peterson didn't necessarily look back to form from a running back perspective, right? When you saw him last week, he was running high. He hadn't quite gotten the center of gravity down lower yet, things like that. So I see New Orleans being able to keep this running game in check. And that means that you're going to have to really rely on A.J. Brown to try and make some plays. And it wouldn't surprise me if you see Marshawn Lattimore shadowing him all over the field and some bracket coverage there. So I kind of lean more towards the New Orleans defense there, but I can absolutely also subscribe to what you're saying there as well with the Green Bay side of things. Question coming in on YouTube there. Is Ramondre Stevens a sub for Kamara? It certainly can be. He is a guy that it looks like he's going to go, looks like he's going to be active for this game. And if you've got Kamara, you need to go out there and find it. Ramondre Stevens will, I think, get the bulk of the workload by Damian Harris being out in this one. So again, I probably see him, when I was statting that one out, I've got him with about 15 to 18 opportunities in this game.
Yeah, if you're talking about a sub for Kamara, or a sub for any running back or wide receiver, you have to look at that specific player's skill set. Kamara, fantastic with, catching the ball and yards after catch. So in comparison, Ramondre Stevenson kind of has the same skill set. Not on the massive level that Kamara is, but Ramondre Stevenson, absolutely a good sub there. I would also say Brandon Bolden might be in line for a couple extra touches in DFS formats, or A.J. Dillon. I think the Green Bay Packers and both Packer running backs, A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, show up and show out in this one. So I could pivot from off Kamara to A.J. Dillon if you had to. Great question.
Yeah, I like it. Chris, let's go ahead and hit up some DFS, some of the bottom of the barrel type of plays there. Like, who are some of the guys that you're really liking out there from some DFS perspective?
Yeah, in terms of running backs, the aforementioned Ramondre Stevenson and Brandon Bolden. So of the two, obviously everybody looks to be on Ramondre. So pivot to Brandon Bolden. Only $5,100 on FanDuel. Let me bring my notes closer so I'm not looking that way when I'm talking. Brandon Bolden, $5,100 on FanDuel, $4,400 on DraftKings. I love the idea of Eno Benjamin as well. Arizona playing Carolina, who's a very good, stout defense. So what does that mean for James Conner? I know a lot of folks are going to they've already rushed to get James Conner in their DFS lines, just about zigging when others zag. So Eno Benjamin, $5,200 on FanDuel, $4,400 on DraftKings. And again, we try and catch lightning in a bottle twice in 2 weeks here. Nyheim Hines, Indy against Jacksonville. I firmly believe Indianapolis has their way with Jacksonville. I have the Colts putting up about 35 points in comparison to Jacksonville's 10, 13, something along those lines. So Nyheim Hines, very much in play. $5,600 on FanDuel, only $5,000 on DraftKings. And then if you look at, this isn't going to be popular, but look at Michael Carter. The Jets, they play Buffalo. Buffalo is number one overall in terms of defending opposing running backs here. But you look at the rookie here. This is the kind of the moment in his career, in his young rookie season, where volume is king, and he's going to learn and grow here. So I firmly believe Michael Carter does well. He's not going to sink your lineup, but he's certainly not going to win you a week. But he is an awesome kind of a pivot here if you have any sort of running back issues in seasonal formats or in DFS circles. Carter, $6,100 on FanDuel, only $5,600 on DraftKings. That's how my running backs are looking here, Derek.
I like it. And you made an interesting point there with Michael Carter there as well. Mike White should be back in this game starting for the Jets at the quarterback position. They will be down. They will be having to move the ball on this one. This could be a very similar type of game script to, without necessarily the outcome. But as far as how they're approaching some of the play calls, things like that, could be similar to what we saw the Jets do against the Bengals, who also at that time were doing very well against opposing running backs there. And you see a lot of check down type of passes. You see a lot of screen type of work. You see him be able to get the ball, get out in the field, and allow him to use some of that skill set to make a guy miss and get some yardage on that one. So I think that Michael Carter is a very, very interesting play, and I like that one. Absolutely. Question coming in here. While on YouTube, Pittman, Godwin, Dearness Johnson, full PPR pick 2. Dearness Johnson's a smash play for me between those three. And then I probably lean. You know what? I'm going to go to my rankings there real quick. If you want to.
Yeah, I already know my answer. Dearness Johnson, absolutely, with a guaranteed built-in kind of workload here. As I said, moments after I joined the broadcast, already in action here. Dearness could see 20-plus carries in this one. You love that one. And then I'm going to go Michael Pittman in a game where I just said I think the Colts put up 35 points. Pittman and Wentz are going to, that's the heart of their offense here. And the only reason I'm kind of fading Godwin in this one is because he was kind of questionable all week. He was limited participant. And again, I think Tampa Bay has no issue really hanging some numbers on the Washington football team. So in a way, Godwin will be active, but I could see a case where we see less and less of him as the game kind of goes on, given the way it's going here. Tampa Bay in a rout. Why would you want to waste up Godwin and what he's doing? It's kind of like an active rest week for Godwin in here. So give me Dearness and Pittman Jr.
Yep, you fully talked me into it. I was looking at my rankings there. I did have Pittman ahead of Godwin this week as well. So again, Dearness Johnson, Pittman, I like it. Couple more questions here. Bars in the Tuck on YouTube. What's up? I am starting a banged up Zeke, and my league gives me 1 point for 10 yards. Should I start Pollard with him or Darrell Williams as his expected workload with Gore looking full PPR? I'm going to go with Williams over Pollard in this one. What are your thoughts?
I'm a wild man, and right, I've prepped and I've already recorded my Sunday Night Football video, and I'll give everybody a little hint here. I'm fading a lot of the Kansas City Chiefs in this one just because of ownership percentages and the way Kansas City's been playing or lack thereof here. So to me, I love the idea of Zach and Pollard. That 1 point per 10-yard return yards is fantastic here. And again, in Kansas City, we never know which way it's going. It's like the shell game on the streets of New York, or the card game, the 3-card Monte here. Darrell Williams could go off for 100 yards, or he could have 8 carries for 20, 30 yards, and we're left like, what the heck here? So I'm going to get wild. Again, it's week 10. I would imagine at this stage of the game, you know where your team lies in terms of postseason play. Or are you in? Are you out? We go from there. Take a risk. It's week 10. Let's get wild. Let's enjoy ourselves. I'm starting Zeke and Tony Pollard in this one, given the return yardage bonus in this one.
Okay. I like it. I like it. I like it. I'd probably go a little bit different, but again, that's going to be dependent upon your matchup. If you need a little bit of, I think you're right. I think Pollard gives the higher ceiling between the two. Darrell Williams probably gives a little bit safer floor when it's all said and done. So that would be kind of the caveat that I'd throw in there.
Who do you trust more, Bars in the Tuck? Is it Derek or is it me? That's really what it boils down to. So we'll see. Well, we should face each other like it's like a UFC fight
Right,
poster.
just like this type of
yeah,
thing?
and we'll see what we get.
Oh, I got to turn this one. All righty. Another question, Joshua on YouTube. Myers, Collins, Agnew, Bolden, Jordan Howard, half-point PPR. Pick two of them.
Oh, I love. I'm going to go Jacoby Myers. He continues to get like an insane target share, 25 to 30% target share. I know he's not a touchdown scorer. I think that changes in Week 10. Jacoby Myers will finally catch a touchdown pass. And Collins, Agnew. I mean, I mentioned Agnew in bottom of the barrel. I mentioned Bolden and Jordan Howard in bottom of the barrel. But of the rest of these, give me Jacoby Myers and give me Brandon Bolden. Just from the case where Ramondre Stevenson very much in play, but God forbid he takes a heavy shot, a big lick here, could re-rattle his brain. And again, God forbid, but it could be something where, we don't see it coming. And Brandon Bolden is the star of the show in the second half here. So give me Bolden and give me Myers, Juarez, and Agnew and Jordan Howard make for excellent DFS plays. So that it best of both worlds.
Right. I do like the Jacoby Myers take there. I would probably lean again. I tend to lean towards running backs when I'm talking season long and I'm talking on, floors. So I think Jacoby Myers absolutely gives you a much better ceiling than an Alex Collins. Alex Collins probably gives you a safer floor. Chris Carson is not going to be a go in this game. There's a good chance that he is going to probably see probably 15 to 18 opportunities in that game there. So, for me, it's Joshua. It's going to depend more so on what you need. If you need a ceiling shot, Myers is absolutely a start. I also like Bolden on this one here too. I'm right there with you on the Brandon Bolden. I think that he provides kind of that nice mixture between ceiling opportunity and floor opportunity there as well, because of the fact that he very much kind of fits into that James White type of role and gives you a lot of opportunity and a lot of points being scored there. But I love the question. Another one here too. We've got Gavin on YouTube. Is Chase Mclaughlin a valid kicker this week? Not many kicker questions we get, but I love it.
Absolutely. I have my projections open right now. I'll tell you exactly what to expect from Chase. I have him for one field goal in between 1 and 39 yards. I have him missing kind of a mid-40s range field goal, and I have him 2 for 2 in extra points. So you're looking at around 7.5 to anywhere between 7.5 to 8 total fantasy points in this one. So 1 for 2 field goals, 2 for 2 extra points for Chase with Cleveland.
I like it. I like it.
Actually, let's go 3 for 3 in terms of extra points. As I said, I think I have Cleveland putting up 31 points. So 1 field goal, 3 extra points, and we'll go from there.
I like it. Awesome. Well, Chris, you did touch on some of the wide receivers. Is there any or any of some of the running backs for bottom of the barrel? Is there any like 1 or 2 wide receivers that you're really, really liking this week?
Yeah, absolutely. In the tops of my list, meaning, kind of expensively priced, we can get Devonta Smith, Landry, Russell Gage, Elijah Moore. But if you want to get like really down dirty, I will mention Jamal Agnew. I love what they're doing with this kid. They're manufacturing more plays from Agnew in Indianapolis, who is 32nd overall against opposing wide receivers. Agnew, $5,300 on FanDuel, only $4,500 on DraftKings, and he is the quintessential boomer bust kind of DFS play. As I said, they manufacture plays for him, and all it takes is one. If they throw him some sort of bubble screen or a swing pass, boom, he's off to the races, 70, 80 yards, and he's gone. So I love Agnew if you're in a pinch or you're looking to kind of, shave some money off on FanDuel or DraftKings. I love the idea of Donovan Peoples-Jones, Cleveland at New England. As I said, I have Cleveland to put up 31 points here. Odell Beckham and that whole nonsense and that toxic behavior is long gone. DPJ is starting starting to come into his own. I have DPJ about 5 or 6 targets, 4, maybe 5 receptions. Does he find the end zone again? I think so. The matchup in New England doesn't scare me much. DPJ $5,600 on FanDuel, on DraftKings $4,800, and then it's kind of a pick your poison. Michael Gallup is back this week by everything I've seen against Atlanta, 17th overall against opposing wide receivers. Gallup only $5,500 on FanDuel, $4,000 on DraftKings. It's kind of like a use it or lose it with Gallup as the weeks start to progress. Seasonal fantasy formats, we're going to get into the playoffs and it's done and over with. But for DFS formats, it's kind of a use it or lose it. I would imagine Gallup he comes into his own again and boom, his price skyrockets. So use Michael Gallup this week. And last but not least, Deontay Harris, New Orleans Saints at Tennessee, who is 32nd overall against opposing wide receivers. Harris looks to be their new wide receiver one. I believe he's had 7 or more targets in 3 of the last 4 games that the Saints have played. Harris, $5,400 on FanDuel, only $4,000 on DraftKings. So that's what I'm looking at in terms of wide receivers. And little cherry on top, Khalif Raymond, the Lions, they go to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's 23rd overall against opposing wide receivers. Raymond he's led the team in terms of targets, and I know that's not saying much given the fact that it's the Lions, but in a game where everybody on earth expects Pittsburgh to just blow them out, wipe the floor, have their way with them, whatever you want to say, I could see Khalif Raymond with another 8 or 9 targets and only $5,500 on FanDuel, $4,900 on DraftKings. Khalif Raymond makes for a nice little salary relief play on all formats.
I love it. Well, guys, I do believe that's going to take us down here about to the end of it. We're starting to run out of time here. Chris, any final thoughts out there for the listeners and the viewers?
No, it's week 10. I can't believe how fast. I mean, it literally has gone by in the blink of an eye. We're always, you and I and everybody else, we're always writing and broadcasting and taking in content and creating our own. And I can't believe it's like a blink of an eye. It goes by boom like that. And again, I'm not comparing fantasy football or fantasy sports to having kids. I don't have kids, but I know a lot of folks, guys that I was born and raised with, they have kids and they can't believe how fast their family it grows up and how fast the time goes. And if that's any sort of barometer to how fast this season is going by, I can't imagine it. So just enjoy every moment of it. Stop and smell the roses. I say that often, but it's week in and week out. It's a good, rule of thumb to live by here. So I appreciate you having me on. Sorry for the delay. I guess it's kind of nice to be pulled in different directions, and especially when we're done here, we can rest. I'll get my nachos and, I'm done for the day. I can wipe my hands. I can get in my shorts, and if I don't want to wear a shirt, I can lay on the couch and be in peace. So thank you for having me here, and I appreciate all the questions and the comments during the length of the broadcast, and I'm looking forward to it. Let's take it all in and just, put your phones down, put the computers off, and just disconnect, enjoy your friends, your family, and be in peace. Happy week 10, Derek.
I like it a lot. Guys, you can find Chris on Twitter at Detroit Beastie. You can see it right there on his handle on the screen as well. So make sure you're hopping on there, give him a follow. He's a great follow. You can also find a lot of his work over there on Team Rise or Fall, teamriserfall.com. You can find a lot of his DFS type of plays, a lot of his bottom of the barrel, which he alluded to and touched on pretty heavily there as well. Great content there. If you guys haven't had a chance to check it out, you need to. You're missing out. Go do it. So, Chris, any final thoughts at all?
No, I appreciate you having me, and I'm looking forward to turning the camera off and being in peace. I'm very much looking forward to that.
I like it. Well, guys, that's going to wrap up this edition of the Sunday pregame. He's Chris. I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe.